Okay, here we are. We are back. It's been a week off. We've been pretty crappy about letting everybody know that, by the way. And I have the wrong frame on. There we go. The dirty pocket. We are back in the pocket this week. We've taken a couple weeks off. Didn't let everybody know. Shame on us. These things happen in the summertime, and it's the off season. I am co-hosting Stacey Bauman with the Scout, Daniel Kelly, writer for Sports Illustrated New York Jets, and some other projects we'll talk about in upcoming weeks. It is a busy, busy summer, and it is all things football content coming your way. And look, we're about to go into August, Scout. I mean,
wow.
Training camp is in session. Here we are. It's nuts.
I can actually still smell the fresh cut grass at the Jets training camp. Just when you say that, it conjures up that memory.
Are you sure that it isn't Zach Wilson's Old Spice that you smell in New York there? I don't know. I'm sorry. I asked the wrong person. I'll ask his mom's friend. Oh, man. That's almost old news now. We are going to tackle some of the headlines from the last 2 weeks. And some of these are crazy, man. They're crazy, some of these. I don't even know what to think.
But wait, our drinks.
Gotta do the beverage. I was leading up to it. What do we got this week? Please tell me it's not colon cleansing flaming Mountain Dew.
It's not. This week we're going to go with something a little bit different, which is kind of interesting because it could lead into one of our topics tonight. Okay. So I am going with
Sioux City Sarsaparilla.
Sarsaparilla.
Is that like a root beer? What do we got going there?
It is the granddaddy of all root beer. Now, there's a quick story here. Do you want to hear it?
Well, of course. Quick story.
I've been drinking this since I was a little kid. My grandma was a snowbird from Minnesota. That's what they call snowbirds when they go from Minnesota down to Arizona for the winter, right? Get escape to 3 feet of snow and all that. Okay. So when I went down there as a little boy, I always don't tell my wife Samantha this, she's a Cowboys fan, but I always wore my cowboy hat, wait a second, this is being recorded. And my little cap guns and stuff. And we'd all the old West towns, we go out. My dad would do get me out there with the gunfighters, on the streets or reenacting the old West gunfights and everything. And I would draw with them. And then I would always have a bottle of this sarsaparilla when I was a little kid out in, old West towns and that in Arizona. Now we're talking about Arizona, but here, now hold on. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Right for my sponsor, my ad?
Give us your sponsor pitch.
Now, this is off the cuff. This is totally
no way.
Uncensored. Okay. Listen, when you need to study for 4 hours in order to fulfill your contract and you're in Arizona, grab yourself a sarsaparilla.
Oh, no. And the segue. Want to welcome in MTO. You were missed too, my friend. Thanks for being back here to join us. Always a pleasure. We've taken a couple of weeks off. Life happens. It's been a crazy summer. Oh, my God, on the jingle.
We missed you. We missed you, MTO. Glad to see you again.
Before we launch into the headlines, he feels strongly that you should get the blue check mark. He's apparently seen some of these Twitter diatribes that, I hate that stuff. So, yeah.
Good point. Hey, I've applied. That blue check mark is almost harder to obtain than a Social Security card in the United States of America. That blue check mark is pretty difficult, but I've tried and I'll continue trying. It's just, people are always going to be naysayers. You always going to have people out there. I mean, it's all over the internet. Almost every major publication in America talks about my background, but you always have people out there because they don't like the narrative about Trey Lance. They don't like the things I have to say. They don't like the truth. They don't like the game film. So I agree with you, MTO. They just, try to work around the pocket, but, it ain't working.
Okay, man. Yeah, I'm well aware of it too. And I'll tell you what, unrehearsed, unknown to you, I'm going to give you 25 seconds. Trey Lance, Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan's press conference yesterday. Trey Lance time it is. 25 seconds, Scout, and then we're moving on to other things. Go.
Big mistake.
boy, it's going to be something.
It's a huge mistake. I mean, this is a move that's politically motivated because they spent the 3 number ones. I've never in my life, in 40 years of watching the NFL, have I ever seen a quarterback more accomplished than Jimmy Garoppolo be more mistreated than what the 49ers fan base has treated him like. And they say they're going Trey Lance, but I got a surprise for everybody. He's still on the roster, and as much as everyone doesn't like it, I think that he is the insurance policy. Don't be shocked, 49ers fans, if and when Trey Lance struggles this preseason, Jimmy G might still be right there.
All right. 24 and a half seconds. There you go. There you go.
Good start the starter. And it's all how they weave and
it's all politics
from a PR standpoint. You're right.
It's big money, baby. Big money. I agree. I thought it was interesting. I'm going to have the last word on Trey Lance, which is absolutely out of character. Even earlier this week, late last week, some coaches, they did a very anonymous poll. You got to love the anonymous poll thing, where they all said, Trey Lance, It was unanimous. Kyle Shanahan may be in trouble. Okay, we're not going to do a Trey Lance show, but it was one of the top stories because Shanahan finally endorsed him and said, Trey, it is. In Trey, we trust. I sure hope so, Kyle. We're about to find out.
I bet you love that as a Rams fan.
I love everything going on in the NFC West right now. Pete Carroll came out today. We'll kick it off there and said that Geno Smith is light years ahead of Drew Lock, and looks like Geno is going to be the starter for the Seattle Seahawks right after they lose Chris Carson to retirement with a neck injury, their workhorse. Oh my, NFC West, home of the world champion Los Angeles Rams, looking to repeat. Yeah, so we're going to start there in the NFC West. We talked about some of those other teams, and MTO, see your notes. We will get to some Mekhi Becton talk unrehearsed as well. But let's start there first in Arizona to go along with the sarsaparilla. Oh my God, have we ever seen anything like this? Handing a starting quarterback that kind of money and then filling it with clauses about 4 hours of nightly homework. Okay, former scout Daniel Kelly, what have you seen? Did you see this in your time in the NFL? Have you heard of this before as a fan? What is happening in Arizona with Kyler Murray?
I have never heard of this happening before in my life, let alone during my time during the league, seeing a team build this type of language into a contract. To me, as somebody who's an aspiring general manager in the NFL, to me, it's alarming, okay? I was alarmed about this from the get-go. You and I have had these conversations in previous shows before, and our audience has probably heard some of this, that Kyler Murray, he basically tried to take the club hostage to begin with. When he scrubbed his social media and all that from the Cardinals, everything, tried to hold them hostage. Listen, and he wanted to become the highest paid this and that. It never made sense to me from the beginning. This is why my mock draft for Jets SI, why I had the Cardinals trading Kyler Murray to Pittsburgh. It made a lot of sense. It's like a breakup, right? It's like when a couple breaks up and somebody moves out and then they try to make it work again. And we all know how those things go, right? The bridge has been broken. It has been burned. So I thought. Now, it never made sense to me, Stacey, because this is not, an accomplished quarterback. This is not a veteran guy. This is not a guy that's, maybe won a Super Bowl that's making these claims. This is not someone, like that. This is a guy who's 22, 23-1, making these kind of demands for a contract. And that didn't smell right, in the beginning. I mean, by the way, I'm wearing a special cologne tonight. Can you smell it?
No.
Samantha wanted me to ask you.
I'm on the West Coast. You're in Key West, Florida. I'm going to go with no, but
let me rub it up against the mic. There you go.
Okay, there you go. We've all gotten whiff of it now.
No, but check this out, okay? When I saw that clause, it made me smile. It made me laugh because as an aspiring general manager, like I said, maybe the first warning sign, as I wrote on Twitter, maybe they should, if you need to build in a clause that mandates a quarterback to do homework and watch film, okay, if you need to do that, maybe that should tell you that you shouldn't be making the deal in the first place.
You think? I mean, I got to tell you that when I saw this, and while it's slightly different, it's not that far different. I immediately thought of the Jamarcus Russell situation.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I thought of. You remember that funny story about Jamarcus Russell when the coaches gave him game film and gave him an assignment and gave him film to watch, and then he went back and he supposedly watched it, and then he tried to tell the coaches what was the story, like what was on the film or something.
Yeah, he was breaking down defenses,
some vague thing, and the coach said, Jamarcus, the film was blank. And that's exactly what it reminded me of, seeing that homework assignment. And you're right, MTO. Jamarcus Russell going ahead of Megatron, that's a farce within itself that we can get into sometime. But I mean, you're right. It was crazy. But this is why Kyler Murray, this strongly suggests why he's 22, 23-1, because he's trying to rely on his natural ability. And now you hand him that kind of money and you think it's going to change. This is going to get very interesting. I saw one of the NFL reporters say lawyers are going to be involved with this, because at any point, I mean, how are they going to officiate this? How are they going to monitor this? How are they, at any time they can be like, well, you know what? He didn't watch it 4 hours, so there goes 120 million or whatever it is. It's like, how are they going to officiate that? That's what I want to know. How are they going to keep track of this?
I got questions, man. I mean, I'm thinking, what is he going to have to do this in a Zoom where the timer's on and they're watching him watch film? Like, I don't get how they're even. It's more than anything, it's insulting, of course. And then you begin to consider, wait a minute, is it insulting? They paid him $230 million, $160 million guaranteed,
which is a huge mistake.
What?
It's a huge mistake. I just don't understand it at all. And like what MTO said, this is a guy that already had his 1 foot out in the baseball world, wanting to play professional baseball. His real passion is baseball. There's red flags all over the field and not challenging a play here that just happened. There's problems everywhere. I mean, this is like one of those situations where people date and the first date is a disaster, okay? Okay, and then people are like, well, you think I should go on a second date? Well, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, what doesn't start well doesn't end well. When you have to try to coax your team leader, this is not a backup tight end we're talking about. This is not a long snapper. When you have to coax the leader of your football team to watch game film and to build it into his contract, it is absolutely absurd. And there's no way in the world that the Arizona Cardinals should have made this deal. And what amazes me, Stacey, the Cardinals have long been known as the cheapest team in the NFL when we were growing up, right? All throughout the years, the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Bidwells, Bill Bidwell, man.
They never spent anything. They wait to make their biggest splash on a guy who doesn't even care about the game enough to watch game film. When you look at all the greats, okay, and you hear about Brady and Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning was advanced scouting his own team, not just the opponents, but he was watching so much film he would advance scout himself to see if there's any tendencies that he was doing or his offense was. I mean, he watched so much game film. The greats watch the film, okay? The game film is where it's at, whether you're a scout, whether you're a coach, whether you're a player. And when you have to coax a player that you're paying NFL money to and you're paying record deals to, and you have to try to just kind of coax, come on, Kyler, watch some game film. Listen, that is embarrassing. I don't even understand what they're doing out there. I don't understand, because they should never made that deal. Right when he scrubbed his social media, had I been the GM, that dude would be on the next plane to somewhere other than the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm calling it right now.
You don't. Don't do that in my building. Nobody's ever going to do that in my building.
No, I'm calling it right now. He is a talented athlete. He's undersized. He'll put up a couple highlight plays every year that are just crazy. But I'm calling it right now. It's the end of Cliff Kingsbury. It's the end of Steve Keim. They're done. at the end of this year. I mean, I don't know what they're even thinking. Did they watch the last 7 games of the season in Arizona? Did they see what he did against the Rams?
It went right. Like you and I talked about
just shocking.
They peaked way too early and went straight downhill.
Yep. Yeah, it's a disaster. And 160 million guaranteed. This guy will be pushing grandfatherhood, and he'll still be getting paid. It's just literally nuts in my mind. I can't believe it. Based on the NFC West, you got to win your division. Look, you got to have a quarterback in Arizona. I get it. But how do you go out and give this kind of money to a guy who laid an egg the last 7 games of the season last year? In that playoff game against the Rams was atrocious. Then he scrubs his social media. Then there's questions whether he even really loves football. And what?
See, this is what we're starting to get into more and more. And this is a problem. If I can just touch on something for a second, right?
Yep.
Okay. We're starting to see this more and more. Okay. That doesn't make sense what's happening in Arizona. I mean, for guys like you and I have watched the game our whole lives for decades. This doesn't make any sense what Arizona Cardinals have just done, right? Like we just discussed. What the San Francisco 49ers are doing, kicking a guy with a 70% plus winning percentage out the door in exchange for some unknown from the FCS it's ridiculous. I mean, it's somebody who hasn't shown the propensity to do anything on game film, and you're treating Jimmy Garoppolo like he's yesterday's newspaper throwing on the trash. Okay. And then you look at a team like Jacksonville, the Jaguars. They make Trevor Lawrence the number 1 pick in the draft after he comes out with a megaphone on Sports Illustrated and basically tells the world, I don't give a damn about winning. I could take it or leave it. My coach says it. My dad says it. My wife says it. I don't care, folks. My son doesn't rise or set on a championship. The Jaguars go right out and make them get the first pick in the draft. You look at Aaron Rodgers, right? You look at that situation up there. He's trying to pull a coup in Green Bay and trying to play armchair quarterback and trying to stand up there and grandstand at the podium for a half hour about how he's questioning the roster moves like he thinks he's the assistant general manager. Guess what, buddy? You ain't the assistant GM. You're the quarterback of the team. But we're seeing this more and more, Stacey. We're seeing these teams make just these ridiculous moves and financially break the bank and set record deals and make first-round draft picks for guys that it just doesn't make any sense if they want to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I don't disagree. I can't throw Aaron Rodgers. I'm a much bigger Aaron Rodgers fan than you are, especially as just strictly a quarterback. He's actually done a few things. He's won a few MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. What the hell has Kyler Murray done or doing over the last couple of years? It's staggering. I mean, what is Lamar Jackson going to get in Baltimore based on this Kyler Murray situation? You know, he's up for a contract. What's going to happen with some of these guys that are coming up on their next round? I mean, I can't believe. To me, that contract is a franchise killer. I think it will be the undoing of the Arizona Cardinals. They don't have the pieces in place to compete with the Rams as much as they think they can. And they're forget the Seahawks and the Niners. Even the Niners. The Niners roster is more talented than Arizona's overall. Overall, that defensive side of the ball is tough, and George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. I mean, what are the weapons? What is Kyler Murray gonna? Is AJ Green back? I mean, it's a staggering decision in my opinion. But my God, when that came out, there's nothing like announcing to the world, we don't really trust our quarterback, and we don't really think he loves the game that much. So we're gonna hold him to 4 hours of homework every night. I mean, you can't even do that with a 14-year-old in junior high school. It's like, what?
It's unreal. It's just,
man,
it's completely unreal.
I'm just blown away.
Well, all these different teams, they're looking at the big, the NFL Sunday tickets, going to be going, on to be streaming is what I'm trying to say. Yep. And so they're looking at the big deal that I think Apple or somebody's going to give them for $1 billion or something.
Yeah, I get it.
They all got their eyes on that, but yeah, it's just ridiculous. Listen, you have to. This isn't like a brand, okay? You have to invest your money in the guys who can win a quarterback. And now these quarterbacks I just mentioned have a chance. They don't have a chance at winning. But Aaron Rodgers looks like he could probably make a nice commercial in that tank top he was wearing. So for Stetson, some cologne or something, maybe, who knows? He
looked great, dude. I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers is great. Aaron Rodgers is great for the NFL, man. He's great. We need this. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't get in any trouble. he just trolls us. He is an absolute gem, man. That I was laughing so hard at that. My God, if he goes out and wins MVP a third time in a row, just stop. Just stop it. And without Devontae Adams, just stop. I absolutely love that.
Don't worry, he won't. They got Christian Watson up there, and he's a bust.
Yeah, we know how you love North Dakota State. We want to talk about that. No, we don't. Okay.
That's Faithful Trey, whatever his name was. That's his school.
MTO brings up a fantastic one of our subjects we were going to tackle a little bit tonight. Let's give it a couple minutes on this subject. MTO, we got that story too. Big Ben saying that football has turned into me, not we, and that he feels like the younger generation is a little too coddled, a little too spoiled. Scout, look, New York Jets under Bill Parcells, a no-nonsense Hall of Famer who did not put up with that kind of crap, even from Lawrence Taylor or Phil Simms or Amani Toomer or a whole bunch of guys. What say you on this? When you look at the generations of football just in the last 10 years, is Big Ben onto something? I mean, it's kind of nice he says it as he walks out the door in Pittsburgh, but is he onto something?
Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, but here's the thing: as the game evolves, okay, the problem here is that, and somebody said this before, is that the moment the players start getting paid more than the coach lost the autonomy and control of the team that they used to have. Okay. So now the team is starting to spin out of control. It's more about social media. It's more about endorsements. It's more about all these different things. It's about building their brands. It's about, what baseball game are they at? Are they dating somebody's mom? Are they, it's a hint, who are we talking? We're talking about all these things, right? But it really is. And social media played into that, and it really has become a real issue. Listen, football is a team sport. I don't care if it's Johnny Unitas. Nobody wins anything without the supporting cast around them. If you don't believe me, take away an offensive line. You can count the one Mississippi, and Joe Montana will be up looking at the stars. It takes a team effort to win anything. And we're getting more into this me mentality and different things. And like you're talking about MTO, and yeah, it's becoming more and more of a problem. But it's not just in football; it's our society as a whole that has that attitude, and everything's just kind of spinning that way, where it's just about entitlement and I want it now, and anyone who thinks that it doesn't think like me is wrong, and all this nonsense.
I did think it was a little interesting at a Big Ben, the timing of it. And look, some of us have been watching this game for a couple decades. Mm-hmm. And, he wasn't exactly a we, not me guy in the beginning of his career either. I mean, motorcycle accidents, alleged assault charges. I don't want to go into that on this show. Other stuff, seems kind of weird. I don't disagree with him. I think what's happens to all of us young guys. We get older and go, oh, yeah, I was dumb back then. And Ben is experiencing that now. And he's probably, I mean, the Steelers haven't been, their normal selves the past couple seasons either, from the Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell disasters since. So it's kind of an interesting take. Interesting that MTO brought this up as well. I want to get into, before our show's out this week, we're going to talk about some of the moves we saw around the league. But here's one that we did not talk about that I caught. And again, MTO on fire. MTO, I think we should be associate producer of this show.
He's rolling right with us. He's all our topics, everything, without even knowing him. I mean, that's
he's hitting the headlines. This is one we didn't discuss, although I found it very interesting as well. And that is what's going down in Minnesota. The Kirk Cousins situation, to find out this week, the Colin Cowherd show with Ben Lieber. Ben Lieber was on there saying that Mike Zimmer did not like Cousins, wasn't going to like Cousins, didn't ever like Cousins, and it was ugly. And at the end of the day, Zimmer was shown the door. And to MTO's point here's Kirk Cousins, who's been, God, has anybody ever made as much money for as little results in the history of the National Football League than Kirk Cousins? And they can't build around this guy. I don't know what they think they're going to have on defense this next year. I don't know. That offensive line wasn't good last year. Are we seeing Dalvin Cook going to waste up there in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think so. I think. I'm a big Dalvin Cook fan, but listen,
Yeah, it's good.
I have been one of the first voices in America that's been telling anybody who would listen have nothing to do with Kirk Cousins. Okay, I've been on this. I'm the one that actually started the engine on this bandwagon. Okay, back years ago when Cousins was in Washington with the Redskins at the time. And the first season he came off the bench, he was drafted the same year as RG3, went in the fourth round, Michigan State. He came in, had a couple good games when RG3 got hurt and all that. Okay, but after that, what I started seeing is this guy folded like a tent in Washington. Anytime he was under pressure, anytime the team, the season was on the line. There was a game against the New York Giants where all Washington had to do was win, and they were in the playoffs. Plus, his contract extension at the time, or thought to be contract extension at the time in Washington, was on the line. And Cousins came out looking like a deer in headlights. He was terrible. He was awful. When I went for the GM's job in Cleveland in 2017, and there was some rumor that maybe the Browns might be interested in Kirk Cousins, I personally wrote a letter to Browns owner Jimmy Haslam and begged him not to sign Kirk Cousins. He goes to Minnesota and signs there. I'm from Minnesota. All my friends who are Vikings fans are like, oh, wow, we got Kirk Cousins. It's like, listen, this isn't fantasy football. Calm down. This guy is the ultimate fantasy football league's dream. He's going to pitch numbers when it doesn't matter. But when you're a fan of the team, he is the poster child for the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, since their inception, has been a team that has been a oversell and underdeliver. That is exactly the epitome. If you open up the dictionary to Minnesota Vikings and you could define them by one picture, it would be Kirk Cousins. Okay, because this is a guy that there's all this hype and he does all these things. But Samantha and I sit in a sports bar sometimes at a Vikings game. We'll be up in the screen. I'll be like, what's the down situation? The game's on the line. I'll be like, watch this, honey. He's going to throw an interception. And I tell you what, he throws an interception. I can almost predict when this guy's going to throw an interception on the screen. Whenever the game's on the line, the season's on the line, he folds like a tent. I tell you what, all that change in Minnesota, new GM, new coach, you keep the same anchor around their necks in Minnesota that's going to pull them down again. What an incredible waste of money. Kirk Cousins is in Minnesota, and he's going to hold that organization back, and they aren't going to win anything. All that change means nothing when you don't change a quarterback. How the new coach up there, your guy from the Rams, ever went along with that? I thought for sure Cousins was going to be traded to Denver. I thought for sure he was going to go to that GM that's out there from Minnesota. I thought they'd make that deal. They didn't. Huge mistake. It's going to cost Minnesota, and they're going to be here in the Minnesota Vikings top 5, top 10 in next year's 2023 draft.
I actually think Kevin O'Connell's going to get the best out of Kirk Cousins that anyone has, just based on the offensive scheme and the fact that he does have a running game in Dalvin Cook. But to MTO's point, what an absolutely crazy situation in Minnesota where, Kellen Mond.
I can see that.
Could be, man. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell is, he's a little bit of a quarterback whisperer. Comes from the Sean McVay tree. World champion Sean McVay.
He was biased.
World champion.
Rams.
World champion.
If O'Connell came from the Chiefs, you'd be like, nah, Cousins won't do nothing this year.
Well, you're right. I mean, he's just going to be pointing out, schemes and routes with that rock that's about the size of my head that he won at the Super Bowl. Just got the rings the other night. Not too shabby, huh? But yeah, Kirk Cousins, Kellen Mond may take over because he's going to want to groom a young quarterback in his system. Good point, MTO. I tell you, very, very interesting set of storylines right now in the NFL. So I want to bounce over to one that I think isn't quite as interesting as everyone else thinks it is. And maybe it's me. I want to get your thoughts on this. Pop off on this too, MTO. Big move this week. As of yesterday, Julio Jones, formerly arguably the best receiver in the league for a few seasons. Many people would argue it between him, Antonio Brown, and a couple other guys back in the day. He is now joining the geriatric the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under Tom Brady. Maybe you've heard of him, where he's going to join a receiving room that Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones. Julio Jones. And Leonard Fournette, who apparently has not been avoiding the buffets in South Florida. Maybe you could tell us more about that, Scout. But this is an interesting move, I think. Oh, very good point, MTO. Kyle Rudolph as well a week ago or so.
I think they got Russell Gage too.
Yeah, they did. Russell Gage from Atlanta. So very interesting. Is Tom Brady reloading?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
He is. You don't want to hear that, obviously, because of the stuff, the decorations in your office. But he is. Listen, this is ridiculous. Okay, the rich are getting richer here. Okay, anytime you can bring in a Julio Jones right before camp starts. Yeah, his production's fallen off the last couple of years with the move to Tennessee and whatnot. But hey, listen, this is still a guy. I mean, as long as he's healthy, okay, this is a guy. I think he missed 7 games last year, thanks to my statistician that's not in my ear. But anyways,
there's no truck out front of that house, man.
Well, there might be, but it's not for that. It's the
FBI.
It's the FBI, and this guy's an ice cream truck outside. But no, they probably are too. That Trey Lance narrative I have is too threatening.
Oh my God.
But that's it's just the rich getting richer. I mean, Todd Bowles, the head coach down there. I love Todd. I work with him with the Jets. He called it a luxury. It is a luxury. This is what good football teams do, Stacey, right? Before the beginning of training camp, this is what I talked about in one of my latest articles for SI Jets about Dominic Sue. They should have brought him in. Listen, when you got guys like this who are surefire Hall of Fame type of guys, yeah, they're maybe not the superstars they used to be, but they have the techniques down cold. They know the game. They can help to move the meter. They're the best kind of role players you could ever get. They're good influences in the locker room. They just add to that culture. It's a great move by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and shame on the rest of the NFL who are sleeping on this for months. I mean, why wouldn't the Green Bay Packers go get a Julio Jones with the mess they have at receiver? Why would the Dallas Cowboys? Okay,
yeah, a little surprised.
Go on and get a receiver like this, after the transitions they've had there, the players they've lost, and the other guy, the guy they have down there, Dallas, coming off the injury. Why wouldn't they go get a guy like this? It just doesn't make sense. But a great move for Tampa Bay. Shame on the rest of the league for sleeping on Julio Jones, and it's probably going to come back and bite the rest of the league as it usually does.
Yeah. Why aren't I excited about this? And I'm going to give you one reason. Can Julio Jones stay on the field?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I just mentioned it. It's the health. That's the big. On the boards in New York of the Jets, they used to put grades, and they would put a letter M next to it. M stood for medical. You got to know that there's some medical concerns that are going into it. But if he can stay healthy, he's going to be right where Tom Brady throws the ball.
It's a very interesting move by the Buccaneers. I wasn't overly surprised. I really did, like you, I thought Julio Jones was going to end up in Green Bay because I know this will shock everyone. Sammy Watkins got hurt in Green Bay, and he's already physically unable to perform. It's kind of the story of Sammy Watkins' career at the end of the day.
What are you going to tell me next? Curtis Samuel's on the injured reserve again?
It's breaking news.
Did he ever come off it?
I tell you, I don't know if Julio Jones can stay on the field. I'm not as excited about it. I mean, I like it. I like the length. I mean, you're talking about Mike Evans, Godwin, and Julio Jones. That's a starting front court in the NBA, size-wise at wide receiver. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the game changer that everybody else thinks it is, and especially with Leonard Fournette showing up to camp fat. I mean, he showed up 30 pounds overweight. That's not good.
Mekhi Becton showed us all you can sit in a sauna for a month and go from 400 to 350. So, I mean, anything's possible.
Okay, so let's segue to that. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. Let's talk about Mekhi Becton, the move to the right side. Look, you write for the Jets. You try to stay even keel, I think. What are we seeing here? This is a shocker because they came out and really built up that left side of the line in the draft over 2 seasons. The kid from USC at guard, whose name I never can remember. But now Becton, George Fant moves to left tackle. Mekhi Becton to the right. Oh, MTO. Are you pouring yourself a drink there, Jet fan? This is what say you, Scout? What's happening up there?
Well, I can tell you what, it's a house built on a couple of real fragile pillars is what we're looking at here, because for everything, and I've written about this for Jets SI, everything that, Joe Douglas has done to build up this team, and there's been some good moves through the draft and whatnot. But they're going into this. I mean, Zach Wilson was the third most sacked quarterback, thanks to getting my statistician, third most sacked quarterback in the league last year with 44 sacks. This is a guy who was limping around a couple times. He missed 3.5 games with a knee injury. Okay, I mean, he was banged up in college a little bit with the shoulder and stuff, I believe. So now you're going to have two guys at the most critical positions at offensive tackle. You're going to have them basically both coming off knee surgeries. And let's not keep in mind, okay, Fance has only had one good season in his NFL career. He's 30 years old. Okay, that was last year. And trust you and me, if you go back and watch the game film like I did, he had to have a lot of help a lot of times too on the outside. Okay, this is not a guy that's dancing around like a ballerina. He needed help with some of those pass rushers coming out the left side. And you got Fant there, who also wants a contract extension, by the way. We don't know how that's going to settle out. And then we have Becton out there, who just a month ago showed up at camp at the OTAs with a shirt on that said "Big Bust." Boomer Esiason was saying he's probably pushing 400 pounds. This is a guy that's missed like 18 out of 33 games to begin with because he's overeats. Okay, that's the record. And he hasn't been able to stay in the field because of his weight. Here's my issue with Mekhi Becton, okay? This is not a Johnny-come-lately situation in New York. There was intel out there prior to the 2019 draft that Becton was struggling with his weight in college, and he was on a diet. He was working with the dietitian and everything. But Joe Douglas ignored that. Brought him in anyways. He's Joe Douglas's legacy GM pick, and what I mean by that's the first number one pick that Douglas had. He looks more like a bust than anything else. This guy has labeled himself as big bust for a while. He changed it back, I think, to big ticket, but he was big bust for a while. This is a guy. Everything I've heard about this guy screams bust. Now they're going to put him at the right side. And here's the scary things, folks, about the New York Jets. Okay. They will. I just wrote another article. They're saying they should go on and try to trade for Orlando Brown. They will not make any upgrades. Okay. So how do you draft a guy who Joe Douglas perceives to be the franchise quarterback and not protect him? Unless, listen, folks, there is nothing to write home about behind those two shaky situations. Okay. Two pillars who are cracked, being held together by duct tape, who are supposed to guard your franchise quarterback. And check it out, folks. Go look at the Jets schedule. NFL.com reported that the New York Jets are scheduled to play 5 of the top 10 pass rushers in the league this year. Every single week they got the Browns with the Steelers. They got just game after game after game after game with the Patriots, with the pass rushers they have.
The Bills.
Every week with Von Miller coming, every week they're going to have guys coming off just screaming about Zach Wilson's mom trying to get to him. You know what I mean? It's like. I don't understand. Joe Douglas has set this team up to fail, and he has set himself up and the entire staff to be fired, all because he looked at everything else and built up everything else in other places, but he ignored the offensive tackle position, and he waited to – I mean, he's only spent 4 out of 25 draft picks since he's been in New York, even on the offensive line. And this year he casually waits to the 4th round to address bringing Max Mitchell, who I gave a C- grade to for SI Jets. Listen, it's in today's NFL, if you can't protect the pocket, it's going to get dirty.
It's going to get real dirty. I was hopeful for the Jets. I thought they were doing things the right way. I like the position players they've added. I love the backfield with Michael Carter and Brees. I think they got some good pieces there.
It's all designed to sell tickets. They are doing
and I get that. But that offensive line over the last couple seasons, I really thought Becton, and thank you for reminding me, Vera Tucker, MTO, I thought, okay, they're trying to build this from the inside out, and now all of a sudden the offensive line looks like it's in shambles. And to your point, they're facing pass rushers and come on, if they go anywhere in the AFC, and they're going to be facing the Chargers at some point. They'll face the Bengals if they somehow get to the playoffs. The Colts are nothing to sniff at. They got issues. And I'm sorry to say that to Jet fans, but MTO says get your resume polished up.
Absolutely.
You're on your way to
I do tag Mr. Johnson in some of my posts on Twitter, so I make sure that he always, I did a report card on Joe Douglas and Robert Salah, and I tagged him in, and so he could see it. So
Okay.
I would love to take over the Jets. Bill Parcells used to say, everybody wants a big job in New York until they get it. I love that. Would love that position, and I would win a Super Bowl for the New York Jets next season. There is no rebuild with me. There is no stealing 5-6 years of money for me. No rebuild. That's a word that losers use. We are going to win the Super Bowl next season if the New York Jets bring me in.
Well, there's this team out in Los Angeles. We'll talk about that off the air.
I got schemes and things I can do that can run circles.
Yeah, well, I know Zach Wilson's mom and her friends, and I can introduce you. No, okay. MTO's like, oh, no, the Jets. Okay, final headline, then we got to wrap it up. 2 minutes here. I want to ask you, because I think it's kind of an interesting non-sign, and here we are getting into August next week. Ndamukong Suh. Who should be chasing Ndamukong Suh right now? We got about 2 minutes to talk about it.
Everybody should be. That's what,
we don't need him.
Well, yeah, you don't think you do, but
he took plays off in LA, man.
Here's the thing, okay? Ndamukong Suh, in today's NFL is a pass-happy league where every team in the league passes the ball according to TeamRankings.com between 51 and 68, I think, % of the time. Okay, absolutely, the Jets need this guy. I mean, who they got? Sheldon Rankins and the other defensive tackle.
I like Quinn Williams, so if you'd like to send him to LA, we'll take him.
Quinn Williams, you put Ndamukong Suh next to Quinn Williams. Now you have something to write home about. Listen. Ndamukong Suh last year had 43 quarterback pressures. He had 6 sacks. He had 6 sacks the season before. This is a guy who can push the pocket. This is a guy who can get into gaps. This is a guy that can create pressure and disruption, and every team should be chasing right now. This is a move that teams that want to win will make right now. It's absolutely – these guys sitting out there like that, it's incredible. Most of these defensive tackles are a joke in the NFL on game film, okay? Most of these guys, they can't move. And most of these guys, even if they can stop the run, they can't get to the quarterback that well. Ndamukong Suh, he's very fit. He's very trim. He still plays at a high level, 6 sacks a season on the average. The guy has only missed, one game in 10 years or something, some ridiculous amount of durability there. So, I mean, at this time, we're not talking about breaking the bank for the guy in the first day of free agency. That's why moves like the Julio Jones and Ndamukong Suh make a lot of sense, because in July, you can get a player like this.
Okay. All right. I think he takes way too many plays off. He sure did stand next to Aaron Donald. But I think that happens with a lot of people. Even Von Miller, I think they stand back in awe and they just go, wow. Subject for another show. All right, guys. That is where we got to wrap up this week. And as usual, it is great to be back. MTO, thanks for joining us. Such a loyal, fantastic addition to the show.
Absolutely.
And brought it today. I thought maybe he was in the truck out front of your house. He was bringing some info. Parting shots this week, Scout. What's your parting shots this week on the Dirty Pocket? Training camp is in session.
Jimmy Garoppolo is not going anywhere.
Okay, you're standing by that.
He's not going anywhere. They're going to keep him around. What they've done in San Francisco is set up a PR, like a situation out there where, because fragile-minded Trey Lance, he's so fragile, he blocked me, fragile-minded, okay? So I mean, all I was doing is just saying what he looked like in game film, and he blocked me, okay? He can't handle competition. He can't handle Jimmy Garoppolo being around. He can't handle it, okay? So they said, okay, Jimmy, you go home, you throw, you do what you're going to do. But listen, believe you and me, okay? Kyle Shanahan has 3 out of 5 losing seasons for that genius everybody thinks he is. And when Trey Lance struggles, if Trey Lance turns in another preseason like he did last year, don't be shocked if Jimmy G is the man.
Wouldn't shock me at all. My parting shot this week, maybe I've got 1.5. I think the Rams are going to roll the 49ers this year. I think Trey Lance will show. I think they're going to get rolled. I don't even begin to understand the Deebo Samuel situation, among other things. But my parting shot is this situation with Kyler Murray will be the end of Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona, and probably Steve Keim as well, because they'll be locked into that. They have to pay the guy. They better start building around him. I think that this was a disastrous decision, and I can't even begin to imagine what kind of contract Lamar Jackson's going to be asking for after seeing that. He's won the MVP. won the MVP, been in the playoffs. Yeah, this is going to be ugly. And can you imagine when Justin Herbert's up? Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice for him. All right, folks, thanks for joining us. Myself and the Scout. You can catch him on Sports Illustrated New York Jets and Whatever It Takes book, as well as Whatever It Takes on Twitter. It seems as though a lot of people know that. And he has some special projects forthcoming. Stay tuned. We will announce those as well. But please do like, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, YouTube. We truly appreciate it. By the way, we can take it. Tell us you disagree. Just be kind of nice about it, but we can take it. Let's have a conversation. All right. For myself and the Scout, Mr. Daniel Kelly, and the very loyal MTO, and anyone else that might be watching or listening, thanks again, and we will see you all next week.
And good night, 49ers Empire, wherever you are.
Yikes.